Hello everyone, welcome back to our comparative analysis and strategy class. In this session, we will discuss about the topic sustainable competitive advantage, okay? So the first thing that I would like to go with is actually, what do we know about what's competitive advantage, okay? So the first thing that we have to analyze, well, this is part of competitive, okay? When we talked about competitive, we're actually talking about competition, okay? It's something that it's outside of the organization that makes customers to analyze, compare, evaluate, okay? It's quite understandable that when we have something, we tend to find similarities and differences while doing this analysis. But now let's do it with this advantage, okay? If we already mentioned that it's something that involves our rivals, direct and indirect ones, we also need to evaluate how can we have the advantage, okay? So this is kind of like the first element that we have to go through in order to analyze the sustainable competitive advantage, okay? But more importantly, okay, now we have to add to the competitive advantage concept the sustainable factor, okay? And what's kind of like the main idea of the sustainable competitive advantage, which is actually that how I'm going to make that advantage will remain for longer periods, okay? Not just in the present, but also in the future. And that's going to be more difficult to manage somehow, because now we have to assume and secure that whatever the competitive advantage that you're mentioning right now will remain, or you will have to do adjustments, which is quite understandable. But what are the implications of developing a sustainable competitive advantage? So let's take a look to some elements that may be important, okay, well, to consider in the structure of this sustainable competitive advantage, okay? At the end, what do we want is to stand out from the rest of what your competitors, but of course, in order to do so, you need to make sure that you have the resources and all the elements to execute correctly your competitive advantage. So some elements to develop, okay, a sustainable competitive advantage is actually analyzing your competition, analyzing your finances, market, innovation, and level of maturity. Okay, so let's take a look to each element. And of course, it's important that we understand that every action that we take requires an investment, and of course, maybe some barriers or challenges that you will got to go through. Okay, and as we mentioned, okay, with competition, the first thing that I would like to highlight is that, well, actually competition can be direct and indirect ones, not just imagine the ones that are currently in the market, but also the ones that may be entering in the short and medium term. Also, that competition is changing constantly, not just by the ones that you know, but also by the offer that they are giving, okay? You know that some people, they or companies in this case, they like to work with seasonal products. They like to create new products. Maybe they even like to develop new strategies. So, I mean, the time that you spend by analyzing your competition can be quite significant, and also because your competition wants to have that piece of the market. Remember that the market share could be a good insight in order to define what's actually good or bad for the company. That's why, okay, I suggest you to read more about this concept of benchmarking, which is a very interesting and insightful method while developing new strategies, okay? The second thing, here's do not copy paste, okay? Imagine that you are doing the same, exactly the same as your competitor, okay? Maybe your client might not have problems with that, but the thing is, like, it's gonna be the same if they buy to you or to your competition, because you're actually giving the same. So again, it's important that you make this analysis in order to have the best results. And of course, develop the integral point of view of the analysis, okay? You're going to analyze, of course, all of them are important somehow, but we have to go to the top ones, the leaders, the ones that somehow they have something in advantage, and of course, how I'm going to make that difference to appear, at least for us in the as an advantage. The second thing is that every decision that you make must be profitable and in the finals aspect, okay, financial aspect. So here we have to know or comprehend that the investment that we do is related to an expected outcome. So how I'm going to make this analysis is by, of course, using financial ratios, by analyzing projecting revenues, forecasting, okay? If I'm thinking in investing in hiring more people, well, why would I hire more people? Is because maybe my objective will be more ambitious? Is because I want to have my objective achieved in a shorter period? What is the analysis involved? Okay. And this is important because when you interact with specific departments of your company, we're going to see that they are going to request numbers. Okay. Another thing is actually this part of the target market, in which I would definitely say analyze that. Of course, the target market is this orientation of the ones that will acquire the product for us, but more importantly, okay, that there are different types of target market. Usually we focus on the first one or the primary, but in the secondary, we can see that we have users. It's important to know that there are going to be some people that will use your product, but not necessarily they are going to be related with acquiring your product, okay? And the tertiary, well, definitely are the ones that get an influence, could be your potentials, but they are not have the money or they are not using it right now as, okay, a potential primary target market. So it's important that you understand the different types of target market in order to make a proper strategy for each one, and of course knowing the impact or the outcome that maybe is not going to be right away. It will take time. Another thing is actually the innovation. Remember that innovating doesn't mean necessarily to create something new, something extremely new. Okay, it could also mean like you want to improve the experience, configuration, or offering. As we can see here, we have 10 types of innovation, but specifically they are cataloged in 3 elements. As I mentioned, experience, configuration, and offering. All these elements at the end will make a competitive advantage, okay? Because all the things, and even a combination of using multiple ones, can make a huge difference. Last but not least, we have the level of maturity, which in this case involves the experience that we already have, if we have a standardized process, and of course the current products that we have. All these aspects will make for us to know more about what's going on in the market, what are our limits, boundaries, okay, internal boundaries, and of course, if we can move forward or we might have to step down and think about what we are thinking or planning to do. All it's important because otherwise you might be committing mistakes, and mistakes sometimes lead into failure in sustainable competitive advantage. Okay, well, this will be it for today. Thank you very much and have an excellent day. Bye bye.